This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. These are 9 stories that we're following today or to start the week. Just bear with us. Here's 9 stories we're following today. First, the markets are relatively flat this morning after being down on Friday. They were up this morning. They seem to have gone back to about zero so far for the day. Second, the NASDAQ is up 20% year to date. Again, through the first half of the year. What a fantastic first half of the year for the stock market. Third, the S&P 500 is up about 15% year to date. The fourth story following today is Tesla's deliveries fell for the second quarter in a row. That's the first time that's happened to the EV maker where they've seen their sort of 2 quarters in a row, their deliveries fall. So that's challenging for Tesla and seeing challenges with slow demand and stiff competition in China. Reuters was reporting on that. There's a fifth story we're following today about NVIDIA, and the story is why NVIDIA is in treacherous waters. And this isn't a negative really on NVIDIA. It's the fact that the stock's gone up by 3,000% in 5 years leads it very prone to sharp changes in the patterns and investors in it. So recently lost about $400 billion in market cap, but seems to have recovered well. But the question of why NVIDIA is in treacherous waters and why as an investor, it's fascinating to watch to understand, do you invest now after it's had this huge runoff, or how do you run up, or how do you look at it, even though, yes, it has had a recent run off. The sixth story we're following today is we were thrilled this weekend to see the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast back at number 1 in the Apple Business News rankings this week. So that was just really thrilled to see that return, and that's going great. Again, the podcast you're listening to ranked number 1 in the Apple Business News category. 7th, Nike dropped 20% Friday. Fascinating to watch what's happened with Nike over the years, especially as it becomes too reliant on baby boomers versus young hip people. Not a good look for Nike as people like me buying Nike, but younger people not buying it. 8th, Tempus AI, which is an oncology AI company, jumped 15% on Friday. There's so many fascinating things about Tempus. One, it's another company founded by Eric Lefkowski, who was the founder of Groupon. In addition to founding Groupon and Tempus AI, Eric's not Elon Musk, but he is the richest person in the area, probably in the state of Illinois. He's founded several successful businesses. Probably the most interesting that he's founded or been a part of the founding of is Hometown Coffee and Juice, a local staple in our greater area. And he and the Rubin family, Julie and Lou, I don't know how hard it is to make an AI company, but they've actually built a coffee shop chain that's just lovely that people can't get enough of. So building a great AI oncology company, tough. Anyone could do it. Building the daily go-to coffee shop that people of all ages want to go to is truly an accomplishment. I say that partially in jest, but it is amazing what they've developed. The 9th story we're following today is a private equity story. Last week saw a $30 billion week in deals, and we'll talk about this more in a separate podcast, but an amazing week for private equity deal making after a really slow 2022 and 23, and quite frankly, a pretty slow 2000 start of 24. Last week was a big deal week for private equity, and we'll see if that adds momentum for the rest of the year. We'll be talking through a few questions raised by a reader on private equity issues on a separate podcast today. 3 questions on private equity, and also talking a little bit about the Price Waterhouse video report on private equity as well. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast. Always text 773-766-5322 if there's anything you'd like to hear us talk about on the Becker Private Equity Podcast. Thank you for listening.